Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, we're going to talk about the state of the market and the question we're all asking, are we back? Is it time? Are we going to continue this bull run? We're going to talk about it. We'll talk about what's going on in the market, which in reality, there's a ton of stuff. Certain things are starting to clear up, and I think that's a big part of the reason why we're having this run up, but we'll talk about it. We'll look at mining profitability, how it's affecting that, and just the overall strategy. Like, how are we playing this? What are we looking at? What is the outlook here? Okay. If that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So a lot of excitement here the past couple of days just because there's been such a big run up with BTC. Okay, especially considering what the stock market has been doing. Again, we had a little rally a few weeks ago. Looked like the decoupling thing was happening, and then 2 days later, which a lot of people were predicting, ended up happening, right? Is it going to happen here again? So far, it's been a few days, it's holding up. But in reality, I think a lot of it has to do more with the bigger picture things, and that's why we're trending upwards. But currently, BTC is doing extremely well. It's back up to 93.6 currently, and a lot of the alts are also doing well. This is not something where it's only Bitcoin and alt continuing to bleed. They are also getting traction, right? As we look at some of the gainers for the past week, Trump is just having a pump right now just because they announced an incentive for any of the Trump holders. The top 220 wallets will be able to go to a dinner. So that's why that thing's moving right now. IMX 47%, BitTensor Tau 43%, SUI, which has been consistently one of those when the market runs, this guy also tends to run, right? There's one we've mentioned before that it's pretty likely to have that Solana type run this cycle. Will it, won't it? We won't know. Currently, to get in now, though, it's ranked number 13. But if any of you guys got in back when it was like 30, 40 cents, things are looking pretty good for you. As we go down the list, kind of a surprise. I didn't even realize it was still this high, was Stacks at 32%. This is one that got a lot of hype back when the layer 2s for Bitcoin. So DeFi on Bitcoin, that whole narrative, which may pick up. It only kind of makes sense that it'll pick up, especially with this narrative of BTC being as digital gold, strategic reserves, etc., etc. This way you're able to earn some kind of yield on that Bitcoin, right? Which was hopefully going to have a bigger narrative. So far, that narrative has kind of dwindled down. Maybe it'll pick back up here because that was also a big narrative for CKB, for new Nervous fans. Kind of the same thing there. But as we go down the list, again, a lot of gainers. Athena 27%, Bonk 27%, Jupiter 25%, Poly, which has been having a rough one, 25%, Near 23%, Caspa 23%, and the list goes on and on and on. A lot of green in pretty much anything, right? Certain ones did run up harder, certain ones also dipped harder, and that's why their run up was more aggressive, right? As we look at the overall market, current BTC dominance is at about 63.5%. So overall, it's about the same, right? It was at 64 the other day, which is a cycle high. The overall crypto market cap is at 2.93 trillion. This is something we tend to follow closely because a lot of people base their overall price predictions based off of what they think the overall crypto market cap will do. Mine is anywhere in the 7 to 9 trillion range, optimistically. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but that's what I'm kind of basing a lot of my numbers off of. Which ironically, it'll probably be about double what the prices were back in November, December during that price point, right? At that point where you were at 3.71. Just to kind of give you a ballpark. Again, I'm very conservative on my numbers. A lot of these things can overperform, right? It doesn't mean it's just going to do a 2x from that point. A lot of them, especially at the end, if we do have the altcoin rally, will outperform what they did at this time, right? So that's just one metric we definitely do follow. Try to follow as many metrics as possible just to keep an eye on things. Now, as far as some of the gainers, and this is where it comes to strategy, right? Everybody has their own things. Some people just mine and hodl. Some people just do a fixed DCA no matter what. I'm a little more on the degen side, especially when there's volatility, right? So during these times when we had this dip, when the market's boring and, oh, this is the worst, oh, mining's over, oh, crypto's over, those are the times that money is made, right? Even short-term money, if you're following the different coins, the different trends, what's happening, this is why I like to look at the volatility. So days like today where we have these massive pumps, I like to keep track of which coins tend to pump the hardest. Same thing when we have these dumps. Which ones tend to dump the hardest? Which coins are recovering the fastest? So that when we do have these dumps, those are the coins I'll probably be stacking more of, right? Even if it's not a long-term hold, even if it's just the sole intention of selling on that recovery pump, right? So not everything I purchase is going into the long-term bag. A lot of it is, certain parts aren't, right? Especially when there's like a quick flip. Okay, so like if a coin does a 2x in the matter of weeks, not a bad time to take profit. Like, yes, the coin is likely to go up. Like, I do believe Caspa will eventually hit 40, 50 cents, hopefully even beyond that. But when there's an opportunity, when you buy some at a nickel and the thing does a damn near 2x here in like 2 weeks, not a bad time to take some profits. Okay, so either you can reinvest into another coin that maybe hasn't dipped as hard. Maybe you have that cash on the side in case we do retrace a bit, in case Trump does some bullshit tariff FUD. Who knows, right? Or maybe we go up only. Maybe it goes up to 15, 20 cents, which wouldn't even be surprising considering we have a major upgrade coming with CAS here in just a matter of weeks with that 10 blocks per second. Okay, so, but for me though, again, 2 weeks, it's going to 2x. I'm going to take some profits, right? Again, to each their own. It's not like I'm taking 20% of my bag. It's literally just a portion of the bit that I had bought during these dips, right? So when this thing was at a nickel, not a bad time to buy. Solana was another one, again, just 2 weeks ago. Again, this is a big market cap coin, ranked number 6 overall, was 95 bucks. So going 95 bucks to $150 in the matter of 2 weeks. If you bought 3, 4, 5, 10 SOL, there's a decent amount of profit you can take, right? And again, it's up to you what to do with that. Are you going to have it just in USDT, just cash on the side? Are you trying to purchase mining hardware? You can put it towards that fund, or you can allocate to another coin. Again, with Solana, it's super easy. If there's other coins in that ecosystem, you can go on a DEX, swap it out for something that hasn't moved, right? Solana moved 60, 70, 80%, whatever it was, and maybe this other coin you're into only moved 5%, or maybe it went down 2%. Not a bad time to reallocate and kind of grow your portfolio. Again, everybody has different strategies. That's just one that has worked for me, right? I had 2 big winners this bear market, and that's what literally has grown the entire portfolio from doing a lot of these moves, right? CAS was huge for me, and Solana was huge for me. Even taking profits on these things and then just buying the dips again has been massive, right? Been able to grow the portfolio as well as the mining hardware, because that's how I've purchased all of my mining hardware, was with current profits, right? Not necessarily reinvesting additional capital. Okay, unless there's times where, like recently, luckily it played out, right? We stopped mining, or we unplugged essentially back in January and have just been DCAing, right? So we've been able to take full advantage of these dips, right? Which is why most of my content these past few months was what? Buying coins, looking at trends, buying dips. And for me, it's worked. Again, my overall goal, like, yes, this is a mining channel, and this is always going to be a mining channel, but at the end of the day, the overall goal is to get the most amount of coins for the least amount of fiat. In reality, I get it, a lot of bitching, moaning, crying about the market, but this is the best thing that could have happened at this time. Even for me, being unplugged, like, instead of sitting here crying, bitching, moaning, I'm here stacking. And the reality is, even if those coins were doing well and I was still mining, things were still profitable, I have been able to stack more coins these past few months through buying than doing that. So this, regardless of your position, whether you're a miner, you're an investor, whatever it is, has been a lucrative time if you took advantage of these dips, which is why we're doing all these videos like, oh, this is opportunity, don't be scared, blah, blah, blah. This is the time that money's made. When everybody's crying, oh, mining is dead, crypto's dead, it's going to zero, bull market's behind us. Whatever. You can have your opinions, and that's fine. I'll have mine, and those are the times I like to make money, right? Again, not super new to the game. It's been almost 5 years now. Again, very reminiscent. What we're going through was last cycle during that May dip we had. It felt very familiar. And again, everybody fudding everything. Very similar to what we've been hearing these past 2 years, right? Non-stop. As soon as the market's down, it's over, it's done, blah, blah, blah. This is a scam coin. It's a exit, whatever. There's money to be made here, right? We've shown it time and time again these past 2 years, and it's not that complicated, right? But at the same time, though, not all of these will work out, right? Sometimes we will time it incorrectly, and it is what it is. Okay, in some cases it does. In some cases, things we plan as being a long-term hold because of the dip ended up dumping, right? So like Beam is one we mentioned on the last time, and it dipped under 0.005, right? So we bought a decent amount there, and same thing. In the matter of weeks, it did a 2x, went up to a penny. So what did we do? I dumped all of it. Okay, so a quick 2x in a matter of weeks, dumped all of it, hung on to it. Guess what happened in a few weeks? We had a pretty big dip. What did we reinvest that capital into? Caspa when it was at a nickel. What happened now? It did a 2x. What did we do again? We sold again. Okay, so taking one initial investment, it doubled in a few weeks, hung on to that, waited for another dip, put that in. Now that 2x, now we took that cash. Now we have a good chunk of change of capital on the side. In case we have more dips, maybe it's for mining hardware, unsure, but this is how we have money to buy these dips, right? And I'm not dumping all of it. I'm storing a good chunk of it. It's just percentages of it. Okay, again, everybody's strategy is completely different, but regardless of the market, these are opportunities to stack. It's up to you to determine if you take advantage of those or not, right? This is something where you have to follow the market and have to be confident. Again, I also only do these with coins that I would plan to hold long term. Like let's say we didn't get a quick pump or a quick recovery, then I just hold it long term, right? Because it's coins that I believe in that will do well potentially in the bull market. Will they, won't they? We don't know, right? But these are coins that I have confidence in. That worst case scenario, I got a good deal and I hung on to it, right? Best case scenario, we're able to flip into these little multiples. And not all of them will work out, right? Sometimes we look at narratives, we look at different things. One that did not work out was the little AI narrative for that March NVIDIA show. That definitely did not pan out, right? A lot of these tariffs took all the wind out of that. Luckily, right now, though, Virtuals has pumped quite a bit. At this point, this is one we DCA'd kind of on the way down. Essentially, right now, the lows here recently, yeah, that was pretty much the low. 40 something cents, yeah, 43 cents. 2 weeks later, it's at 77 cents, right? So this is one that I'll probably exit out here because at this point, it'll probably be a slight profit, right? Because this is one we bought some at $1. We bought some at 70 something cents. We bought some at 60 something cents. And then we bought more at 40 something cents just to, again, further lower that entry point, right? Which at the end of the day, it's like, yes, you are kind of catching a falling knife, but it's risk to reward, right? We're looking at the trajectory of this thing, which previously was at $5. We're leading into a narrative potentially for AI coins that just didn't work out, right? So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. This is the risk you take, right? So this is one that'll probably likely continue to do well though. But realistically, there's so many other bigger cap coins that are still pretty severely underpriced that I would probably rather go into more so than anything, right? So again, some work, some don't. Maybe it can continue to go down further, right? There's not to say that, okay, yes, we did go up here. Maybe it goes back down to 5 cents. Maybe it goes down to 2.5 cents. Maybe it goes down to a penny. Same thing with Sol. Maybe it goes down further. And we just buy again, right? Because at the end of the day, the overall goal, like the overall target is still in play, right? I have price point set up that I think it may hit. Will it, won't it? We don't know. Sometime in Q3, Q4, and that's when the real profit taking will actually happen. Okay, so even in the case of like Virtuals, like, oh man, it was going down. Okay, well, it's a coin that has the potential of going back up to $2-3, right? So even if you bought at whatever price point, you can still hold long term if it's a solid coin, right? If you're going into a straight up meme coin, I'm not a big fan. Like for me, those are short-term flips. I don't really buy meme coins to hold long-term. It's literally something where buy it and flip, right? Literally a lot of times, sometimes within hours, sometimes in a couple days. And that's usually about the extent of it, right? So definitely degen into those as well. But for me, none of those are like long-term portfolio holds. Those are literally like hours holds, right? So again, it just depends on how much you want to play in that market, if you do, right? Some people don't, and that's fine too. To each their own on that front. Now because coin prices are up, guess what? Profitability on these ASICs are going to go up as well. So at a 10 cent kilowatt hour, certain coins are starting to pump. Again, it's the the usuals that have been up here, which is script and the bigger BTC ASICs. And for a lot of you guys, it'll probably be the Caspa ASICs would be your interest. So at a 10 cent kilowatt hour, the KS5 is profitable, right? It's making about $2 a day, which again isn't a ton of money, but again, it's the focus on yield. Break even or better. That's where I'm at. Me personally, I'm at 14 cents. So we are still not there, although it's getting pretty close. Oh man, we're all the way down here. Losing about 90 cents a day, which isn't horrible, but it's not great either, right? For me at this point, I still don't have full confidence that we're back, right? I do think we are back, and not to FUD anything, but until we have like these tariff deals in place, it's gonna still potentially be volatile, right? So although we are looking good, and that's a big part of the reason, we'll talk about why here in a second, until we have that in place, like it's hard to be super bullish just because, again, one stupid ass tweet can set us back to where we were just 2 weeks ago, right? So for me to plug back in, I need to be confident that, okay, this is the beginning of something else. So like as soon as tariff deals are in place, then absolutely. That same day, at least that guy will be plugged in. The other guys, it'll probably be a little while longer. Let's look at like the KA3, for example. Let's go under all, $3 a day at 14, right? So still quite a ways for a lot of these. Won't just be that one. It'll be like the K7 and such. So gonna have to wait until we're in the bigger swing. Oh yeah, losing $3 a day, which is significant. So hail to the no. But again, it's depending on your electric rate, right? Previously, when I was at 10, not too bad, right? So fairly close, but at 14 cents, again, your electric rate makes a huge difference here, okay? As we look at GPUs, the standout is it's pretty much been the same with the exception of Qubic. So this one had a decent pump. It's pretty significant, right? So we look at it, we look at what happened. On the 14 days, 65% up. Still quite a ways to go from previous highs. But they did just get some big news. So overall, they're ranked number 306, which is a lot higher than I would have thought. $179 million market cap, which is pretty significant. The big news here, though, was their speed of this thing. So it is CertiK certified. CertiK does one of the bigger audit companies. They audit smart contracts. So a lot of times when they are in that testing phase, they will run it through CertiK and they'll get certified through them. So it's not just a little no-name thing. This is pretty legit, right? We're going to have to wait to see what actually happens when there's actual use on the network to see if it actually handle that. But look at that TPS, 15.5 million TPS. Okay, so this is what is causing that pump. And again, it's not just a random claim. It was certified by CertiK, which is the name who you want to get certified by, right? It does bring legitimacy to it. How legit it is, hard to say. Like, I don't even know a whole lot about it. Remember, this is the one that had the weird, it's like a CPU mineable, or was CPU mineable at the time. Weird little different things. So a lot of people didn't actually mine this one. But these are the possibilities. This is what can happen. Again, it was certified by CertiK. If we go through their smart contract audits, 510,000 followers. They have certified a lot of the big blockchains. They are one of the big names with this, right? So this is a big deal, a new record in blockchain performance. We recently concluded a high load speed test for Qubic, and we're excited to announce that it now ranks as the #1 fastest blockchain tested by CertiK, reaching a peak of 15.5 TPS, right? So that's what kind of caused that. And that's kind of a big standout. I know a lot of people say like, oh, well, it's just speed. Who cares? What is it doing different? The speed is what allows you to be different. It's what allows you to do pretty much anything, right? It definitely what opens up the doors for whatever. And this is definitely what stands out to people, right? I think the biggest difference is when a new coin can do something that others can't. In many cases, what a lot of us tend to focus on is speed, right? Because speed allows you to handle the throughput necessary to do a lot of things. Okay, it is a big, big deal. And this is pretty significant, right? And this is a good quote right here that I did just see. This isn't just about speed, it's about what becomes possible because of it, right? So all the shit coining on Solana and all that stuff, those were excellent stress tests, right? In some cases early on did not handle it, but these most recent ones got pretty shitty for a while, but it did somewhat handle it, which is unprecedented volume, especially when like Trump dropped. That was crazy, right? So pretty significant. Is it one I'm super interested in? It's one that definitely is going to get me to look at it a little bit more. Definitely going to do a little deep dive and see what we really think about it. But this is a standout, right? And these are the types of things that we see, and it's like, ooh, okay, that's a differentiator. It's not one that's just, it's does so here, so there. I mean, that was one of the standouts with Caspa, right? Potentially being the fastest proof of work, and potentially the fastest, one of the faster coins, period, right? Especially in terms of blocks per second. So this is one to kind of keep on the radar. That's what's going on there, and that's the reason that GPUs are currently profitable. How long it's going to last, probably not super long, but it just shows how quickly things can change, right? Because then what happens? One coin pumps, hash rate goes to there, yield goes up on others, and it just turns into a game. The savior will be when there's an overall pump and kind of everything abroad, right? So when you have not just one coin pumping, but all of them going up just enough, right? And in reality, like we've mentioned with GPU mining, the name of the game is going to be for those who held and were mining it years ago when the yield was double, triple, quadruple, 10x of what they are now, or what they're going to be once things are finally profitable, right? People who held during those times, those are the ones who are going to make out. Which ones are going to pump the hardest, though? It's a freaking toss-up. But that's why we try to look into the coins, look into the blockchains, see what they're doing, see what the potential is, see what the tokenomics are, see what the likelihood of it being legitimate are, and kind of place our bets based on that, right? Which is why this past cycle, Caspa, Lithium, Radiant, a lot of these during certain times did extremely well, right? If you guys remember those pumps in 2023, 2024, XNA, Chlor, there was like 10, 20, 30 X's during those times throughout this bear market, right? But again, if you weren't already mining them, if you didn't already have your bag, you didn't really get to take advantage of them because they were pretty short-lived, right? Which kind of fully expect to be potentially the same thing during the peak of this cycle potentially, where it might just be one quick, not necessarily like an hour candle, but something where it's span of a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe longer. We're gonna have to see. But let's look at some of the news events that have indeed happened. One of the bigger ones was a big announcement. So MicroStrategy is going to have some competition. Strike CEO Jack Mallers, to lead Bitcoin investment company backed by Tether, SoftBank, and Brandon Lutnick. Does that last name sound familiar? It should. We'll talk about it why here in a second. Brandon Lutnick, son of U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and chair of Cantor Fitzgerald, is launching a listed Bitcoin investment vehicle backed by SoftBank, Tether, and Bitfinex, and headed by co-founder Jack Mallers, the CEO of Bitcoin-focused payments app Strike. The company to be called 21 Capital. So essentially going to be very similar to Strategy, aka MicroStrategy. So pretty significant. Tether and Bitfinex are contributing 1.5 billion and 600 million respectively, while SoftBank is adding 900 million. Pretty significant, right? So 21 plans to have more than 42,000 BTC at launch, giving it the third largest Bitcoin treasury. Strategy was MicroStrategy, has 538,200, and Mara at number 2 holds 47,000. So you can see the massive gap there, although they're going to be very close to Mara right off the rip, right? So pretty huge, and expect this to kind of continue, right? We've had a lot of these other companies kind of do something similar. We've heard with GameStop, and just expect these announcements to come, especially as BTC's price pumps. Why? Because they were accumulating. You guys were selling your Bitcoin to these guys during these times when BTC was at 74,000. With all these calls, oh, it's going down to 60, going down to 50, bull market's over. You guys were just giving your Bitcoin to these larger companies, these larger entities, these larger nations, these larger countries, who are all going to eventually make these announcements. It's not that they're buying them now, right? They bought them when BTC was at 74, or I'm sure a lot of them were stacking even prior to then, but they're not going to make their announcements until they got what they wanted to get. They tried getting the price lower, and that's all they were able to get. So now they're going to make those announcements, right? So expect to see potentially more of this, more companies, more nation states, more strategic reserves, all that good stuff, right? So just follow the whales, right? This is why we follow a lot of these things. So some of the other catalysts are the easing talks with these tariff wars, specifically against China, right? We had the 90-day pause with every country except for China, right? Essentially telling us that probably the goal of these tariff wars in general were specifically targeted with China, okay? And essentially Trump kind of conceding a little bit, right? So kind of interesting considering how much they were talking, but it does feel more than anything that they are kind of conceding quite a bit. So let's read some of the quotes here. Trump says China tariffs will come down substantially, hinting at a potential U-turn. So 145% is very high, and it won't be that high, Trump said in a question and answer session with reporters in the Oval Office. It won't be anywhere near that high. It'll come down substantially, but it won't be zero. Okay, so the tone is definitely different. And a lot of it probably has to do with this, restricting the export of critical minerals used in everything from iPhones to missile systems. That is one big thing that China did have on us, and that is affecting a lot of tech companies, a lot of manufacturing, and a lot of everything here in the US, right? I'm sure that played a huge, huge part in it, right? So you can continue to read. There's a lot of quotes that came from that Q&A section, but essentially that's all it is. It's him softening that tone, being more open. A lot of his other aid members that are in these negotiation talks essentially just hinting that they are potentially nearing a deal, etc., etc. So that's most likely why a big part of the relief in the market is coming from. Just because, again, we want that stability, right? In reality, I won't feel fully confident until once that deal's in place. Like, okay, we reached this agreement. At least bulk of it, right? Initially, I think there was an article also saying that they expect it to not be finalized for like 2 to 3 years. But the bulk of it should be done hopefully in the short term, maybe as soon as the next few days, next few weeks, maybe a month, maybe not till the 90 days are up, right? That's kind of the number that a lot of people have been hinting to for don't fully expect trades to be finalized until that 90-day threshold, right? So that is pretty significant. More news also came out that they're trying to close out the Ukraine-Russia conflict, so might be making progress there. It's a lot of back and forth there, but it would be, again, very significant if we did get some kind of closure there as well. Other big catalysts are regarding Fed rate cuts. A lot of people are hoping for a May cut, but it's not looking good, right? If we look at the likelihood, it's at 93% that it's not going to move for this May meeting. The money, though, is on this June meeting. If we go up to June, it's looking like it's going to be 61% likely that it will, right? So 58% for this move, 2.8 for that move. So it's looking very likely, at least as of now, right? Again, as things come out, we'll see what gets said on this Fed meeting on the 7th. That'll give us more confidence here, right? So we keep an eye on these things just because this thing does tend to be fairly somewhat accurate. So there is a lot of expectation for this June 18th meeting for there to be a cut, which would, again, be massive. Okay, so if we were able to get a resolution to this tariff situation, a rate cut would be massive. If we get a resolution over here, this would be massive. These are all things that give what? More certainty to the market, so more confidence overall. Okay. Another big thing is just the liquidity cycle. Again, a lot of people, this picked up a lot of steam here recently this past month with a lot of people looking at it as a indicator, specifically a lagging indicator. And so far it's been playing out. And this is also something we've talked about here when I do those portfolio videos for the past year or so, right? Reason being, the one who kind of got me to look at this was Tech Dev over on Twitter. And this has been his thing from the get-go. You can see his pin tweet here from freaking 2023 talking about the same thing. Okay, and right now it's kind of playing out that Bitcoin's price action or crypto's price action isn't just specific to the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, right? A lot of things play into it that do go into that, including the liquidity cycle, right? Which happens to play along with it, as well as the presidential cycle. There's a lot of things that line up during that 4-year period, right? So a lot of things looking good. I know a lot of you are still super bearish. These are the times to take advantage, bros, right? A lot of things did move up, but still you got to look long picture wise. If things go in our favor, there still is a lot of upside potential depending on the coin, right? You have to look at what's up Everybody's going to have their own strategy with that. But for me, things are looking good. The market is kind of saying that also. Again, this can change in the flip of a switch, or in reality, a freaking tweet from Trump, right? So we're going to have to wait and see. But realistically, I won't be super confident as far as like plugging in the ASICs until we get that deal with tariffs, specifically with China, right? In reality, that is the big deal. Once there is at least some kind of agreement in place, we'll see. We'll see how it goes, right? But for me, that's one thing I definitely need to see, and I think that's what the market wants to see also, because even just this little glimmer of hope is giving us a lot of confidence and a lot of price appreciation here that will hopefully continue. Although it's extremely weird timing though, right? Typically, for the most part, May tends to be the month where we kind of bleed off leading into the summer, just because, again, a lot of people on vacay, not as much liquidity or volume or interest during the summer, just because, again, this is the time people do vacations, spend time with their family, etc., etc. May be different this time though, right? Because in reality, there's a lot of money to be made potentially if things go in our favor. Again, there's a lot of things that are kind of lining up. If we get that deal with the tariffs, we get that rate cut in June, we potentially get QE also in June. A lot of the bills and legislation, the cutoff for a lot of them is by August. A lot of the, not rumor mill, but what they're saying is they want these things done, these bills done and passed by August, which is all leading up to what? It still falls in place with that timeline, right? With it potentially peaking sometime September, October, November, somewhere in that time frame, leaving us anywhere from like 5, 6, maybe 7 months, or maybe longer. Maybe it goes beyond all that. We don't know. But again, I try to look at every avenue, look at all the data points. If we go by the typical cycle, that'll be it. Will it happen? Won't it happen? We don't know. But again, there's a lot of catalysts still at play here for me. Everything is still in play. All of my price points are still in play. We'll see how it pans out. At the end of the day, what is our goal? Still just stacking, right? But whatever means, whether it's the miners, DCAing, ECAing, whatever it is, the goal remains the same until Q3, Q4 of this year. And that's when we'll see, right? As we get closer, and especially as we pass these hurdles, right? Once we get that deal in place, once we get that rate cut, does QE come into play? Like if all these things actually come into play by August, then I'll feel pretty fully confident dumping sometime September, October, November, right? If things kind of get lagged, like maybe we don't get that rate cut here, maybe we don't get the legislation we think we're getting, maybe it gets pushed off a bit, but things still look good, then that could potentially lengthen things. All these scenarios you do have to consider, right? Will it happen? Won't it happen? We're going to have to wait and see. But again, the more data points you have, if you get confluence all across the board, that for me is going to be the signal, right? So I'm looking at this, I'm looking at that, I'm looking at that. But if all are pointing to that same timeline, then things remain, right? So everybody has their own strategy. Everybody has their own way of doing this. Everybody has their reason for doing this. You have to make yourself remember as to why you're doing this, right? Are you doing it for the tech? Is it the hobby? Are you trying to maximize this bull market for profit like I am? For me, that's the overall goal, right? So I am into crypto. I am into all of this. It is still extremely fascinating. I'm constantly just learning about everything I can because it's like almost ever evolving. But at the end of the day, a lot of it is primarily for that goal, right? To maximize this bull market. Make sure you remind yourself as to why you're here, why you're doing this, right? Let me know in the comments though, guys. What do you guys think? Are we beginning this bull market yet again? Are we going to retrace? Do you think it's over? Do you think this bull market has been over? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.